All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the July meeting of the DuPage July. Oh my God. We were just talking about July. My head is already in the clouds right now. The June meeting of the DuPage ROSC Council. Glad you could be here with us today. My name is Jarrett, and I am the DuPage ROSC coordinator, and I'm also a person in long-term recovery from substance use. As you can see behind us, we are on the road. We are at beautiful Banyan Treatment Center in Lisle. This is the first of a few off-site trips to different community partner sites to kind of just get out in the community and kind of visit with some of our partners. And so that's what we're going to do for the next few months. And we'll kind of introduce everything over here in just a minute. I do want to kind of get through the preamble stuff and share a few things, and then we'll kind of get started for the day. So a couple housekeeping things first. If you're online, if you could just make sure that your microphone is muted unless it's time for questions or chat, that'll help us in cutting down on interruptions. And also, if you've not yet and you're online and you want to put the name and contact info in the chat, you can do that. It helps us to take attendance, and we submit that all to the state. So as I mentioned, we are here at Banyan and Lisle. But on the way over here, I was thinking of today's icebreaker because I usually try to keep an icebreaker question ready to go. And I thought since it's summer, we're kind of getting towards vacation time. We're thinking about going out, doing stuff in the community, summer events. And so I thought it'd be cool to ask maybe a couple ones here. As DuPage ROSC is going to be setting up out in Addison at the Rock and Wheels event, I thought of a good icebreaker question. What's the best concert you've ever been to? I thought is a good one. Or what is the best summer vacation you've ever taken? So if anybody has one online, you can raise your digital hand, or if you're here in person, we've got the game show microphones. We can pass those around. I'm trying to think. So I would probably say best concert. Okay. I'm going to date myself when I say this one, but I saw the Beastie Boys at Allstate Arena, and they were on a 360 rotating stage. And that was also the first concert I was at where I smelled marijuana for the first time. So if it was yeah, I had blonde tips. And that's a spoiler, by the way. My buddy Mike here has got a very, very embarrassing photo of me. We're going to play here in a little bit. I've known him that long. But I don't know. Does anybody here have a favorite vacation or a concert or anything like that? I've got the mobile mics we can pass around. Judith did say best vacation, Madagascar. Holy moly. That is a good one. Kayla, I see your hand raised. Do you got something you want to kick in here?
Yeah, actually, so I'm Kayla. I'm in long-term recovery as well. And like I think when I was like 2 or 3 years into recovery, I saw AC/DC at the United Center. And it was right before Brian like stopped playing because of his hearing loss. And so it was just hands down the best concert I've ever been to.
Amazing. That is a really, really good one. Was there another mic over here, Blake?
I have a vacation story. When I was a kid, we were traveling to Yellowstone, and on the way, we stopped in the Badlands. My stepmom was on good terms with her ex-husband's family, and her ex-brother-in-law was a paleontologist. So she asked if I wanted to stop by and see his workshop. I said, hell yes. And we stopped, and at his workshop was right after they had dug up Sue, the T-Rex, and I got to run my hands on her skull
Okay,
and
I'm
feel
sorry. I'm
her
literally
teeth.
jumping into a.
Hang on a second. Make sure everybody's muted. Go ahead. Talk about Sue's skull again.
So when we were at his workshop, that was right after they had dug up Sue, the T-Rex, and I got to walk up to that crate and rub my hands along her skull and feel her teeth. And it wasn't long after that when the government confiscated it due to the whole legal issue
Oh,
with
man.
her ownership.
That is a really good one. Thank you, Blake. Anybody else here in person or online? We're doing either like favorite summer vacation or favorite concert. So you got two to choose from here. There's been some good ones. We got our friend Danny Sorbis over here.
Everybody, I'm boring. I don't go to concerts, but going to Greece and the motherland is always a great vacation. So my favorite time was when I got to take my daughter there in 2023 just to visit our island. My family from California was also out there, which was not planned. So it was just nice spending the time. We took a boat around the island, good stuff. So
Yeah, when Danny first joined us a few years ago, he told me, I think his first week, he's like, just so you know, I go to Greece every so often. He's like, and I'm like, okay, that sounds good. Yeah, I'm gone for 2 weeks. And I'm just like, in my head, I'm like, I would love to go to Greece for 2 weeks. I'm very, very jealous. So yeah, that is a really good one. Anybody else? Favorite concert, favorite? Ben is a musician, but you could do concert or trip.
I'll do a concert. When I was about 14 years old, uh, maybe some of you remember the band, the Rolling Stones. I went to their Steel Wheels concert
Oh,
at the Chicago Amphitheater, which is no longer there, man. And that was another lifetime and quite an experience. And I'll
excellent.
leave it at that.
Excellent. And as I always have to, I always point out all right, well, hey, thank you to everybody who contributed to that. That was great. We appreciate you helping us break the ice. I'm going to share my screen and go through some things. Actually, hang on one second, because I think there was a few in the chat here. Make sure I get them. Someone was jealous, Danny, of your trips to Greece. I know that. Mimi says favorite vacation, Grand Tetons. I've been there. Those are amazing. Oh, was there somebody else that had their hand raised? Pat? That's just what I'm reading in the chat. Let's see. Yeah, Sarah was the one that was
Me.
jealous. All right,
And-
Pat, what do you got?
Yeah, when I was younger, of course, I was diagnosed with I had my diagnosis when I was in high school, but when I was in the hospital, I was struggling in my 20s and 30s. And when I came out of the hospital, my mother wanted to give me a gift, and she said, uh, "If if you could dream of doing anything, what would you like to do?" And I said, "I would like to go to Israel." And 1 week later, she handed me the tickets and we went, and it was a trip I'll never forget that I took with my mom. So, you know, I know a lot of people have different opinions about that, but I just really enjoyed myself, and it was the first of many overseas trips to various countries. So it was a landmark.
Awesome. Well, hey, Pat, thank you for contributing. We're glad you're here with us. Thank you to everybody who contributed. I'm going to share my screen. We're going to go over some housekeeping stuff, promote a few things, and then we'll get going into the meat of this. So let me share my screen real quick. There we go. My folks online can give me a thumbs up if you see that. All right. So let's go over what we're doing today. Right after the agenda, we're gonna talk about some upcoming meetings and trainings that are going on through our organization and a couple others. I'm gonna cover briefly a couple of substance trends that we're seeing. This is a new segment we're trying out, and I'll explain why. We'll talk for a couple minutes with our friends Kayla from the Addiction Policy Forum, and then my good friend Mike Wood to the right of me. We're gonna have a nice conversation not only about Banyan, but his own lived experience and his own journey into recovery out in our area. So we're glad to be here with him and with you. So let's talk about a few things to promote. Have any of you heard of 7.0 before? You can raise your digital hand if you want, or if you've heard of it here. If you've been coming to ROSC meetings for a little bit, you may have heard myself or Blake mention it. It's we'll get into it here in a second because it is on the substance spotlight, but it's something that's been showing up at vape shops, and it's something that's become already very problematic. We're going to get into, obviously, in that presentation why. But Blake, when he came on board, I told him, like, you're my chemical guy. So anytime there's stuff like this that comes up, he's like MacGyver with figuring this stuff out. So I'm glad we have someone that's able to, at a deeper level, get into some of this than I can. So we'll be doing that next Wednesday. These presentations are the ones that are separate from this meeting, and it gives us about an hour to actually like really dig into a topic. So 7.0, something that you should keep on your radar if you don't have it already, because it's definitely on ours. So that'll be next Wednesday. If you attend the Will and Grundy County ROSC, I'll be appearing on that one on Tuesday, June 24th, to not only talk about the DuPage ROSC, but also like what a lot of our organizations are doing out here in DuPage to kind of like collaborate and create a more seamless system of care, but also, really establish that culture of recovery so people stop falling through the gaps One of my favorite things to do is to get ROSC together in our area because geographic borders mean nothing really when it comes to addiction and things like that. So attend that if you'd like. There is a hybrid option. So that's on Tuesday, June 24th. NAMI is helping with family. If you or your family is struggling, maybe someone in your family has the substance use challenge, maybe, you know, it's someone in recovery, family needs support just as much as the person. So NAMI is offering that family walk-in support Monday and Wednesday, 11:30 to 1:30 at NAMI DuPage. Keep an eye on that construction over there. That's the DuPage Crisis Center, which is expanding and opening up with more beds soon. So a lot of cool stuff happening over there in Wheaton. Live for Lolly also does a grief group for substance use related loss. These are Zoom meetings. These are really, really helpful to have. Sometimes it's tough for people to get out in person. Sometimes it's really painful to go out and join grief groups in person if you haven't already, if you're not a part of that group. That's why they do offer these Zoom options. So if you or somebody you know could use that, Live for Lolly has got you covered on Zoom. They are also opening up on July 1st a Woodstock office, which is awesome. Live for Lolly, if you're unfamiliar, is a really great harm reduction organization that does work all throughout Northern Illinois. Really, really great organization, and it is cool to have a brand new Woodstock office opening in July. Now I'm going to give the microphone over real quickly to my buddy Danny, who heads up our course program. Mike, do you mind handing him that one for a second? And then I'll let him plug some of these meetings that are coming up through Serenity House.
Thanks, Jared. Good afternoon, everybody. Danny Sorvis. I coordinate our community outreach recovery support grant, like Jared said. Our priority populations are those who are unhoused or risk of being unhoused, have substance overuse disorders, and are at risk for overdose, incarceration, or medical complications from using. In order to do that, we do a lot of different things. We do coaching, we do harm reduction training, distribution, outreach. And part of that is doing hybrid meetings. So it says virtual on the screen, but it is now a hybrid smart meeting every Saturday morning from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. The in-person is at Serenity House at 891 South Rolling Road in Addison. Right after that, if we can go down one more really quick, Jarrett, thank you, is a virtual or hybrid refuge meeting from 10:30 to 11:30, also in person at Addison in our Serenity House. So I would highly recommend checking those out. They're alternatives to your traditional 12-step meetings.
Do you want to explain briefly what refuge is if somebody maybe is not familiar with
Sure.
refuge recovery?
So refuge is they do meditation. It kind of comes from the Buddhist teachings, right? So instead of just focusing on, God and that aspect, it's just an alternative way of relaxation and not really going into that, right? It does Buddhist teachings. So it's something that we said was a need, and we've got quite a few participants through it. Our hybrid veterans meeting is currently on hold. So it's okay. We're probably going to be moving that to Tuesday nights, but as soon as it gets back on track, I will make sure to pass it out, and I'll type in my email information to the chat. Feel free to reach out to me.
So you can see that flyer. Now just imagine that as a meeting that exists, and then we can get you to that one. But yeah, thank you, Danny. We appreciate it.
Thanks, buddy.
Hey, if anybody is looking to do like maybe get peer support services through CORS, what's the best way? Just to contact you directly? All right, Danny will put his info in the chat. If your organization could use a little peer support help, we're there to help you. A couple other things to promote real quick. Serenity House is also offering a psychiatric intervention program. This is provided by the DuPage Community Transformation Partnership. Pretty cool for us because this is one of the first times we've been able to offer a service like this. So you do not need to have a substance use diagnosis to access our services, and you do not need insurance to access them. So we do a lot of crisis prevention. We try to do relapse prevention and ultimately be pragmatic about lower emergency room visits, really an overall kind of enhancing a well-being. So if you or somebody you know could use some psychiatric help, we are providing that on Wednesdays in person between 1 and 7 p.m. You can contact Serenity House at the number below. There's also a QR code, or you can always contact me directly and I can make sure that you get to the right people. But yeah, if you need somebody, or if you have somebody that does not have insurance but could use this stuff, we'll help you take care of that on Wednesdays. A couple other things. NAMI's also got a teen support group. Believe it or not, this is something that is in demand. A lot of younger kids between 8th and 12th grade are facing some of those really, really deep peer pressures at school related to substances. The substances that they're coming across are more dangerous than when I was in school and some of the other people, my peers were in school. So they need just as much support sometimes as adults. So if you've got a teen or know a teen, send them over to NAMI. Also, are you aware that we put Narcan vending machines and vending boxes out into the community? One of our biggest partners is the DuPage Health Department. Scott Kaufman, one of our good buddies, is hanging out right here. We have partnered with them for a couple of years, and then together, I was trying to do a count. I think overall there's like 20-something boxes throughout DuPage. Yeah, that's the official. And he works for the health department. That's very official. 20 something. But hey, we're continuing this. We're going to continue our work with the health department and the DuPage Narcan program to provide these. So if your organization would be a good fit to host something like this at your site, please let us know. We've hosted everything from libraries to social service organizations to treatment centers, you name it. We try to get it out there in the community. We take care of everything. We take care of the cost of the box, the installation, if you'd like, the refills of the boxes. It's really a win-win situation for everybody involved. So if you're interested, shoot me an email. We can have a meeting and kind of talk about if that's a good fit for your organization. All right, so the substance trends. I'm gonna give the microphone to Blake for a second, because we are gonna talk about 7.0 just very, very briefly. The way we kind of come across this was a couple of months ago. I was doing you want to come over here for a second, Blake? Yeah, I was doing a presentation on stuff you could find in vape shops. And I had done it a couple of years ago, and oddly enough, a lot of the substances had completely changed from the next time we had to do it. And 7.0 is one of them. 7.0 is something that gets sold out there. You can sometimes see it marketed as a kratom item, I guess, or a kratom related substance. But in the research that we've both done, I think there's a lot of misconceptions about it. So Blake, do you want to give them kind of like the Cliff's Notes of 7.0 and then kind of what to be on the lookout for?
Yeah, so 7.0 is a natural alkaloid found within kratom. However, it is 5 times stronger than morphine. It is a full agonist, meaning that when you take it, it will give you much the same effects as taking any other opioid like hydrocodone, oxycodone. It is highly addictive, gives you withdrawals if you suddenly discontinue use, and it is becoming problematic where people are dropping absurd amounts of money daily at the vape shop to maintain their habits with it.
It's got a really, really crazy footprint on social media, especially on TikTok. If you look up 7.0, just 7 and dash OH, you'll find hundreds of videos of people talking about the dangers of 7.0, talking about how they aren't able to get off it. They go through terrible withdrawals. And these people are being prescribed maintenance medication like Suboxone, higher doses that are still not touching all of the withdrawal symptoms, which goes to show you something that if a strong agonist like that is not taking care of all of that, that's a very, very strong thing that 7.0 is.
Definitely. And now that the spotlight is being focused on 7.0, there are newer compounds coming out that were created from 7.0 so that any regulations that do pop up, they can neatly skirt past those and continue making money.
Yeah, so hang out here for a second, Blake. So we're gonna do one more, but Blake's doing a full-on presentation on this next Wednesday. And we'll talk a little bit too about how you can access those presentations if you're not able to make them there for the live ones. The other one is nitazines. We did a presentation on this last month. So nitazines are basically it's a synthetic opioid that have been showing up over the past couple of years, more so in probably the past 6 months or 8 months. Do you want to give them the same thing, just Cliff's Notes version of nitazines?
Yeah, so nitazines are another opioid, much like fentanyl. They are wildly powerful. The reason why those are becoming popular is due to the increased focus on fentanyl. Trying to obtain the precursor materials for fentanyl is becoming more and more of a challenge. With nitazines, you don't have to start with the same material, so you can locate that with much less legal hassle and continue to make money.
Yeah, so very, very similar to other synthetic opioids, like we said, like fentanyl and those types of analogs. So this is stuff that can be reversed by Narcan, but because of the strength, We're talking about sometimes higher dosages of Narcan needed to reverse an overdose that maybe a few years ago would only take like what, 1 dose of Narcan?
Correct.
Yeah. So you can kind of see like the danger of some of the stuff that's showing up. So there's a full presentation on nitazines on our YouTube page. So there's about an hour's worth of information. And then Blake will be doing this with us on next Wednesday. So thank you, Blake. We appreciate all of your hard work.
Of course.
Give him a round of applause, the chemical guy. All right, I'm going to stop the share for a second because I do want to get our first guest in. We're going to do Kayla real quick, and then we're going to get to Mike right after that. So Kayla is joining us from the Addiction Policy Forum. She has been coming to our meetings. Kayla, how long now? It's been close to since the beginning. Like I think it's been like a few years at least. I remember seeing your name. Is that right?
Yeah, I've been here and there, but yeah, since the beginning.
Yeah, but Kayla had reached out earlier this week with a few things that she's doing over there at Addiction Policy Forum. She is the director of patient and family services at Addiction Policy Forum. So Kayla, I'm going to give it to you just for a few minutes here. If you don't mind at the beginning, kind of maybe telling us all the different types of work Addiction Policy Forum does, and then the specific projects you're working on that we might be able to help with.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Jarrett, and thanks everyone for being here today. And it's so exciting to hear all the things that you all are doing. And so I'm Kayla Zawislak. I work at the Addiction Policy Forum. So I personally live in DuPage County, and that is why I attend this. But I work for an organization that's a national nonprofit. And so we do a lot of different things like we create trainings, we create different curriculums for whether it's a family member, caregiver, for individuals with a substance use themselves, law enforcement, first responders. One of our main things is we really try to take the evidence-based research and science and translate it into digestible and understandable terms, because many times it is not accessible and not understandable. We also really want to work to bridge that science gap. We know that once something is found to be evidence-based, it usually takes 17 years to actually get it into practice. So we do a lot of this through whether it's creating videos, graphics, all sorts of different kind of like materials and resource. And so I personally work within our organization on our anti-stigma campaigns, which includes like trainings, surveys, and all sorts of different kinds of things. And one thing that I just want to highlight is within our website, we have a load of resources, videos, infographic explainers, all sorts of stuff, all open source, so you can utilize it. We have this thing called the Opioid Prevention Campaign, and it has videos, graphics, explaining how substance use disorders impacts the brain. It's also translated into 12 different languages. So if you're working with folks who speak different languages, they're great, whether it's a passive or an active distribution. We have folks just print them out and have them sitting somewhere or pass them out. So if you ever need kind of like resources in that sense, I'm great. If I don't know it, I can connect you to someone who knows it. But why I reached out to Jarrett is also I am involved in research. And so we have a couple different research projects that we're working on right now. We really believe in the importance of bringing people with lived and living experience, bringing their voices to the table. And the whole idea of like nothing about us without us. So actually bringing folks with lived and living experience to the research. So one of the research projects we're working on right now with the University of Delaware is we're recruiting folks who either identify as in recovery or in recovery and actively using substances or actively using substances. And what we're doing is they'll be completing about 4 different activities, which won't take more than an hour, all online. And what we are gaining from that is we want to create a kind of guidelines and best practices for when folks, whether a researcher or clinician, involve people with lived and living experience in research. Because there's really, from my personal experience, being within the research field, sometimes there's really great intentions, but people don't know how, like the risks that are involved with involving people who have lived and living experience. Or, there's this idea of, oh, you should just volunteer, it's part of the service. But really, people sometimes have to take off work or they have to get childcare. And so being fairly compensated. And so there's a bunch of different ideas that we're hoping to come out of it. Folks who do participate, they get paid $100 for each activity that they complete. It is through a Tango gift card. Unfortunately, University of Delaware could only provide gift cards for that. But if anyone has anyone, we are really looking for people who identify as actively using substances. So whether you work within the harm reduction field or know somebody that maybe was in recovery and no longer is, or identify in one of those yourself, I'll put my information in the chat. I'm the main point of contact for it, but I'm really passionate about it because we're bringing people's voices to the table. And this is going to go in a peer-reviewed journal. Everything's anonymous, but to really help hopefully change the trajectory of how we involve people with lived and living experience. The other thing that we are working on, that we're creating a study, is we are trying to create a prevention curriculum. We created a prevention curriculum called Protect Your Brain. And what this really focuses on is really trying to middle school, high school, increase the mental health literacy, understanding how does substance use impact your brain? How does your genetic load really impact the development of a substance use disorder? We're gearing towards trying to increase risk factor, like knowledge of risk factors, protective factors, coping skills, and different kinds of pieces like that so people can make more informed choices. I know I personally grew up in the dare age where it was like, just say no, and this is your brain on drugs, and it did not work for me. And
I say the same thing every time. I was like, I remember Dare, and I remember it not working at all.
no, it made me more interested. Uh, And so this is really to like educate folks like, okay, your brain is so vulnerable at this time, which is such a superpower because you can learn languages, new hobbies, and new skills. But also, if you use substances, it can damage your brain more easily. And so we created an online course, and what we're trying to do is recruit people to take the course so that we can see, okay, is this hitting the learning objectives? It's about like a 20-30 minute course. It's self-paced, online, completely free, and folks get like a certificate of completion certificate afterwards. So I'll put the information in the chat. You can reach out to me if you have questions. Um, but yeah, I think that's about it. I know I said everything really fast.
No, that was really, really good. Actually, if anybody has a question, you can come up, mute, or raise your hand. The question I had though, because I know you mentioned the "nothing about us without us" phrase, which is one of my favorites. But because addiction policy does do a lot of like advocacy work and things like that, where do you see like the need for the most type of advocacy right now as it relates to like people with substance use issues or challenges? Is it harm reduction? Is it funding? And look, you're amongst friends. You can be as honest as you want.
Yeah, that is a really hard question. Uh,
We're
I,
trying to figure it out too. So I'd love to, yeah, see what others' ideas are because, stigma reduction and advocacy kind of go hand in hand for a lot of the
yes.
work that we do. So I think that's kind of what we're looking at.
Yeah, so I think like this is not Addiction Policy Forum's view on things.
Everybody hear that? This is Kayla. This is not.
This is my personal opinion. I think we're looking at, especially with like the budget cuts, budget plans and stuff, so much money, whether it's for research or for projects or for naloxone distribution or treatment or anything, so much is getting cut. So
Yeah.
I feel like the advocacy for that, because if we don't have funding or the funding sources, we can't continue to do the work that we're doing, which I hate that it all comes down to money. But I
Yeah.
think that, as well as like continuing to advocate for stigma, because stigma, unfortunately, people treat people differently because they have these beliefs about what a substance use disorder, and maybe it's a moral choice or something like that, and they don't understand that it's a health condition. So I feel
Yeah.
like it's like a double-edged sword, and I think if we educate people and decrease the stigma, it might have more buy-in for making sure that there's funds to support the work that, we've seen a decrease in overdoses in some places, but with all this, that just like absolutely terrifies me what
Yeah.
is going to happen now.
Well, and we see a decrease in fatal overdoses, but at the same time, other overdose stats might be going up, and yeah, there's
Mhm.
a lot of work to do still. But so the best way for people, did you put your email address in the chat so if people want to sign up or they've got clients or anybody who would be interested, they can reach out to you directly?
Perfect. I will. Thank you so much, Jared.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for making the time for us. Now, thank you again, Kayla, and we'll make sure we get people directed towards you. I'm gonna pin this so I can put this guy right next to me. All right. So now it is time to get to our good friend Mike Wood, who does business development over at Banyan. I'm going to share something. If you're on the Facebook at all, it is my picture. If you're on the Facebook at all, you may have seen a like a preview of this at one point.
Pays to be.
Yeah, it pays to be on the Ross Facebook. All right, so when I call Mike Wood, this is the photo that pops up, right? I'm gonna scroll down. Now look at me on the mic, and then look at this.
Yeah.
All right, so
That's,
so this is me.
but I had it
This
too.
is me.
For the record, I had it too. I was a Sunnin type of guy.
Yeah. So as you can see, Mike has this photo of me, and we have to say that this is credit to our friend Jenny Monroe, who is also a person in long-term recovery. She is the one who also submits these embarrassing things of me to other people. So I'm glad they could have that. But the reason I wanted to share this is because I have known this guy for a few years now, and I'm gonna do a stop share so I can kind of maybe give like a little bit of a backstory. So maybe a little bit less than 10 years ago, so maybe like 2017 or so, I was really struggling. I had been through kind of stops and starts in sobriety, and I was having really bad health problems. I just come off of like cancer treatments, and I was just not in a good place. And I had people around me who were pulling for me that really wanted me to try and find recovery. And a lot of them ended up being this group of people who were working at Banyan at the time. So I mentioned Jenny, who was like my best friend in the world. She works for them. Brad Gerke was another one who I have around a lot. Mike J. And this gentleman right here, Mike Wood, who I had seen and met back then. And I remember like looking at him and the other people who like were working at Banyan at the time who had like really great recovery. And I remember thinking like, I don't get it. Like, I don't understand how they can do that, because you guys all looked like genuinely happy, not like fake happy. And I was like, I just don't understand what that's like, you know? But over time, I'm very fortunate to, first of all, to be a professional peer with this guy's crazy because of how I felt back then, which was, I thought I was never going to get it right. But also as a friend. And he's been such a huge supporter of us as an organization, but also personally. And I thought it was great that this is the first place we could actually go and do the remote thing. So we're obviously going to talk a bit about all the services and stuff at Banyan, but I kind of want to talk to you directly because you're a person in recovery and you're a person who's been through a lot of this stuff. And I would like to maybe just talk a little bit about your journey, like to get to where you're at. So I'm not going to make you do the whole story. I've heard most of it and it's very entertaining. But maybe let's just talk like a little bit about how, how did you finally get to the place where you were, where things had to change for you and you had to really get serious about recovery?
Yeah, so I'll put a couple little just little snippets real quick. There's me and I grew up in a single mother home. There's and the only reason I bring that up is because me and my mom were extremely close, like inseparable, still are to this day. And I ended up having kids at a young age. So I had 4 kids by the time I was 23. And the reason I didn't get sober until I was 26, the reason that I bring that up is because I started using at 14 and there was nothing that was going to separate me from the drugs. There's meaning my mom's tears, my kids. I remember when my kids were born and I promised myself and the woman that I was with, like, this is it. This is it. And I kid you not, I had a buddy driving to Elmhurst Hospital, meet me in the lobby so I can get my sick off. So with that, there's the motivation, honestly, truly, finally came for me. It was a spiritual route when I came to know this power greater than myself, when I came to know God, and I sensed value from that. I sense that the creator of all things somehow sees value in me. So I should start to see it in myself. And that came through a guy named Sam, who's a plumber, who's like no special, like there's no special, just a plumber that was a volunteer at Woodridge Interventions on Friday night. And he would just show up week in and week out. And I'm a stubborn Irish and Italian kid from Oakland Park. I had no idea. how to ask for help, and I just like blurted out in the group like, "Will you help me?" And he was like, "Slow down, kid."
Yeah.
That's
That's powerful though, like to
It
get to
was-
the point where you have to ask like that because you know that's the only way that it's gonna change.
That was the You mind if I go into a little?
Please,
So I was at Woodridge Interventions.
Same here. There's a few of us who
And
are.
we got Woodridge alumni. Whoa, yeah, there's yeah. So I was at Woodridge Interventions, and I wasn't mandated by the court. So we had 39 guys or whatever it was, and it was like me and two other people that weren't mandated. So the Friday volunteers were there, and I like chest all puffed out. I was like, "Hey, my name's Mike, and I have a question. But first, I just want to say that I'm here voluntarily. I wasn't mandated." And but
Immediately, you're
he
different.
go,
He sounds
which,
like a-
by the way, I had this big. I was homeless, living in a train station, so I had this big beard. The scar under my eye was fresh. I looked like $1,000,000. And I'm like, I wasn't mandated by the courts, and this guy stops me dead in my tracks, and he goes, "Brother, let me tell you something. If you think you're not mandated, you're sadly mistaken." He goes, "A judge may have not assigned an order, but you're mandated by death, spiritual, mental, relational, emotional, physical death." And I like sunk down in my chair. And he goes, "Now, what was your question?"
Yeah.
I was like, "Skippy, I got nothing for you, bud. Like, I don't even know what I was gonna ask." But then right into that, they talked about like this deflation. So even like you complimenting me, it still feels a little uncomfortable. But they talk about like this deflation of ego and humbling yourself,
Yeah.
and part of that being asking for help.
Yeah.
And that was the hardest thing, whether it was spiritually or to another man, to genuinely say like, I need help. But not only that, I'm willing to take what you put in front of me. Like you have something that I want,
Yeah.
and I'm willing to like if you tell me to do something, unless it's really outlandish, I'm willing to.
You'll
do
find
that.
a way to do it.
Yeah, exactly. And that was where the recovery started. And unfortunately for me, I had 11 months sober from Woodridge. I was doing well. I was sponsoring guys. I was sort of on fire, and I had this grandiose idea that I'd go back to my old neighborhood and tell everybody how great
How great you were doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey guys, why aren't you with me on this path? And I ended up relapsing shortly after that. And then my recovery was sort of reflamed and reinvigorated in the greatest treatment center in all of Illinois, Cook County Jail.
Oh
So-
yeah.
So
We'll talk about that briefly. Here, you don't have to go into everything, but here's what I say sometimes, which is sometimes the best thing that can happen to somebody who's like really deep into their addiction is to run out of options. So what I mean by that is when I no longer had a couch to surf on, or when I no longer had anyone that would pick up a phone call for me, that's sometimes when like change can really affect like that. But I've heard Cook County can have a similar effect on people. And so I assume that was probably the same for you when you were in there.
I think here's the scariest part for me. Like that time was probably my 7th time at Cook County Jail. So I knew how to maneuver. I knew who to stay away from. I knew how, I could count cards. I could play spades. I could do.
Pass the time.
Yeah. I knew how to do that. But I think this time was different because my mind and my heart was filled with scripture and AA. And like that was, it's hard. I don't know if anybody's ever relapsed when they've had like substantial recovery.
Yeah.
Man, that's tough. Like and it's not even like that. It was guilt that was like, that I was feeling, because when I look back, truthfully, it was conviction.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference between conviction and guilt. But then I would like pray in the midst of my madness. So
Yeah.
I'd go into a store to steal, and I'd pray to God that I need you to humble me because I can't do it myself. And so when I got arrested, I was right under the bridge on 290 in Central. I got arrested.
I know exactly what
Most of us guys
I know.
do.
Yeah, Danny even knows.
Right when I got arrested, there was like this breath of fresh air, and
Oh.
and I didn't get to the phone for about 3 days. And we talk about how it affects the families in the NAMI group, and I finally got a hold of my mom, and I go, "Mom, I'm back in Cook County Jail, but there's no bond this time." And she goes, "Oh, thank God." I was like, no, I like clicked on the phone. I was like,
Yeah.
I don't think you heard me. Like, there's no bond this time. And she goes, no. I know you can survive in there, but you were going to kill yourself
Out
outside
here.
of there.
Yeah.
And that was like, I was like, damn, dude, this is real.
Oh, wow. No, I will say, because the joking aside, there are a few alumni from Woodridge in here. But there's a really good lineage of recovery that comes through places like that. And you also spent some time at Serenity House. Now, I find this stuff out later, and it's interesting though, and I've talked to Blake about this. There is this lineage, and there's people who pick up that lineage of recovery and really go with it and kind of turn it into their own thing, and they keep it going.
Yeah.
So talk to me about your sober living experiences.
Yeah, so I went through Serenity. So first, I'll tell you all the times that I was recommended to sober living and
To
denied
not
it.
go.
Yeah. There's no IOP is a much better fit for me. I don't need
Yeah.
any housing attachment or anything like that. There's, and that was pretty much every time until when I called my sponsor from jail, and he literally he goes, "Hey, I'm not going to sponsor you unless you go to a halfway house."
Yeah.
And it wasn't necessarily like it wasn't a 12-step thing. He just knew me better than anybody knew me. And he was like, you just have to separate yourself and come under disciplines and guidelines.
Yeah.
And that was completely foreign to me. So I went through Serenity House, and this goes back sometime. I got stories for everything. So Serenity House, I walked in, I did my I was like kicking and screaming. I went in, and a lady named Miss Valerie, who ended up becoming one of the biggest influences in my life. She met me there, and she goes, "Do you even want to be here?" And I said, "No."
It's a very good question for a lot of them that come in.
Where I was working a program of honesty, right?
Yeah.
So I said, "No, absolutely not. I don't want to be here." She goes, "Before you unpack your stuff, why don't you go call your sponsor?"
Yeah.
And so I called him, and I go, "Sammy, I'm pretty sure I'm getting kicked out before I even get started." And my sponsor, like, Sam, he
Yeah.
never swears, he never cusses, and he goes, "What the fuck, kid? You want a cookie?" And I was just like that. And he goes, "Go fix it and call me back."
Yeah.
So I walked in, I said, "Miss Valerie, by no means do I want to be here. I don't want to be a 26-year-old in a sober living house. Like,
No.
that's not what I want to do. I don't want to be in the position I'm in, but I'm willing to do whatever you guys put in front of me to be a productive member of this." And
Yeah.
she's like, "That's all I needed."
It's the willingness, right? Just
Uh-huh.
to say, I know I don't want to do this, but I know I need to do something like this.
And through the Serenity, I took advantage of every single thing I possibly could. So I got a job. I had a job when I went in. There's any service opportunities, like Jason and a few other guys, we got the opportunity to start HA, and really like started Heroin Anonymous DuPage. While
Which
I was
lived
in
on and only unfortunately shut down due to COVID.
Yep.
But Lineage, I was the chair of that meeting for
Yeah,
about a year.
yeah. And that was like me and Jason. We were just guys that had gotten sober. That all we wanted to do was like benefit those in front of us, and
Yeah.
it was just like, how do we do this? And so like HA came about. Which was funny. We both went to go to get into DuPage County Jail, and they sort of laughed at us. They were like,
To lead
"Buddy,
the class.
yeah, to lead the class." They were like, "Buddy, you just got out of jail like 4 months ago. Like you can't." You can't.
Well, we still run into that problem.
I finally became a volunteer through Just with Murph. There's about like 6 months ago.
I love it. You just took the scenic route.
Yeah, I took the
That's all.
scenic route. But yeah, the Serenity House experience, the halfway house experience was like at Banyan. That's one of our proponents. Is we have the PHP with housing, and the whole atmosphere, the whole necessity of it is you're just not ready. So like the American Standard of Addiction Medicine has the full continuum of care, and it's there for good purpose and good reason. And it's really just to get you acclimated back to life slowly but surely.
Yeah.
And that's what Serenity House did for me. And it also allowed me to, like, disciplines were, like I said, completely foreign to me.
Structure, discipline.
All that stuff. So I would walk to the train station, the Lombard train station every morning. I'd leave the house at 4:30, got to the train station, would take the train to wherever the job site is. I was
Yeah.
doing construction. And then I'd get back home with literally like 30 seconds to spare
Till dinner
for
time.
dinner. So I'd be covered in like dust and epoxy, and like poor guys next to me were like, "What the hell?"
And real quick, for those of you who aren't familiar at Serenity House, they have dinner around 6. They clean up and then they go straight into their stuff, either that small group or a meeting. So it's not like Mike could come home and chill for a while. Like it was straight into recovery stuff. But I think that's a good example for how bad like you wanted to make it work, was just going to those lengths to do it.
And those were the guys that were successful. Like even still to this day, Mikey J, we were in it together. There's
Briefly my sponsor. I still feel bad. I kind of put him through the ringer.
yeah. So exactly, right. But he was just to be a service.
He was available. Yeah,
he was available.
Wanted to do it.
And those were the guys that got plugged in with the community and finally had enough of being the person that they used to be, and were just willing to ask for help.
Yeah.
I mean, so we have the DuPage County Recovery Coaches come in here. Mark came in here recently. We have speakers come in, and the people who are successful at Banyan are the people that get plugged in.
They engage with those
They
people.
engage with
Yeah.
those people, and they stay in contact with
But they
them.
want to get involved when they get out of here.
There's treatment centers. The Serenity House was 3 months of my life.
Yeah.
I'm going on 12 years sober.
Yeah.
It was a phenomenal 3 months. But if it wasn't for me getting plugged into the resources that Serenity House offered, I mean, I can probably say without a shadow of a doubt, me and you aren't talking about recovery right now.
No. Maybe in jail somewhere.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Real quick before we do get into the service stuff, how did you? Okay, so you've got your personal recovery, but how did you start to get into like doing this as a profession? How was that adjustment from personal recovery to working in the field?
So truthfully, there's a guy, well, many of you guys know Brad Gerke. There's when Banyan launched in Illinois, they basically gave Brad, they were like, hey, you got the wheel, go and hire some people to signify this housing portion that we have. And I was grinding concrete and doing epoxy floors, and if you can see me, I'm not built for concrete. So Brad there was a handful of us guys that were in recovery that all we were offered was like a small minimum wage and an opportunity to be of service, and we're in. So we started with that. I hated I hated marketers and business development people.
I get it.
There's still do. That's a different conversation for a different day. But so I never wanted to do that. But then my buddy Nick approached me from Indiana Center for Recovery, and he was like, here's the thing, dude. He's like, I know where you're at. I know where you stand. He's like, but if you can get in front of a place that you believe in, and if you can change the system from the inside out. And I was like, I can sign on to that. So then I was with them, and then got to where I'm at with Banyan.
Yeah,
and in the Midwest.
And what all types of services do Banyan provide in our area?
Yeah, so in Illinois, we have our detox residential program in Gilman, Illinois. If you don't know,
Beautiful Gilman.
Yeah. It's somewhere where Jesus left his sandals. It's out there.
That's good sometimes for that type of place.
So Banyan, so every state, Banyan has these like isolated areas that are on a large acreage, like that's 39 acres of land, walking trails, private pond that's docked. Like the whole mindset. So if you've been to treatment before, like out of sight, out of mind really plays a factor. I mean, I was in Cook County, so I wasn't leaving regardless. But even when I was in Woodridge Interventions, I can't tell you how many times I got the itch to leave.
Yeah.
And really, like, I knew my kids were 45 minutes away. I knew my friends were 30 minutes away. And I would see people constantly. They had 5 years floating over their head, and they'd sign themselves out and go.
And
when you're in the middle of nowhere, it's a little tougher.
Yeah,
it's a little tougher to make that decision.
But it's a really nice location too.
It's beautiful. If anybody ever wants to tour or to come see, like, you're always welcome. It is about an hour and 45 minutes away. So Banyan really falls under the full continuum of care. So we have our detox residential in Gilman. And then from there, the hope is that the client comes to our PHP IOP in Lisle. We have a PHP with housing. So it's basically a sober living attachment that's staffed 24/7. We drive our clients to meetings. We have gym memberships. We do outings, things like that. Just to signify, like, we're not a glum lot. You can get sober and still have fun. And
that's important.
Work on your body. Absolutely. There's and then we also have virtual IOP. There's so that's we get a lot of people from rural areas. And the thing that we just solidified literally Monday, we have here at Lisle, we have primary mental health PHP/IOP. So we saw the need, just like Serenity House. We see what a lot of people are going through and what's happening. So we hired a therapist specifically for that track. And then we're also looking for another therapist because we anticipate that census is going to grow quickly. So if anybody knows anybody, feel free to reach out. But yeah, that's the Banyan services in Illinois.
The people who come to services like in Gilman, or even up here, do y'all do medication assisted treatment?
Yes. So
that's a question I'll get all the time.
Yeah. So just to be clear, so we detox off of methadone. We don't continue methadone.
Yeah, no continuation.
There's but yeah, so ours are Suboxone, Subutex, Sublocade, Vivitrol, Naltrexone.
That's a good range.
Yeah. So we're pretty conservative with our distribution of meds.
Yeah.
There's our doctor is like,
But that's on the safe side though.
Yeah,
You
and
know?
we certainly, because we know where the, I guess for lack of a better term, where the magic happens, and that's
Yeah.
in the therapy. So
Right.
we want people to be mindful and vigilant. And if you've been doing like something like heroin and you're coming into detox, we're gonna let you know, get a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's not an easy
Always,
one.
yeah, of course. It's not supposed to feel great. One thing I do want to give you credit for, and this was regardless of whether you were at Banyan or the place previous, which is you're like, I don't care ultimately at the end of the day if you all come here, but I'm going to find a place for you to
Yeah.
go, which can be tough to do sometimes because any of us who've done coalition building, but even business development, we understand, we do have to pay the bills. But there's always going to be those clients that are just not going to make the criteria for certain places. So where is the responsibility? And you've taught me through that you're going to find a place for them if you can. We really don't want them to fall through those gaps like that.
Yeah, or well, I like to sleep at night, right?
Yeah. Well, that's a great way to put it. Yeah.
So that was like coming into this field, and in knowing what I knew about like previous treatment centers and the madness that, I mean, a lot of people from the outside looking in look at our fields and it's not, we don't have a high regard because of things that have happened in the past, or there's bad seeds. But realistically, me personally, like, yeah, and if I can't, I know who to connect the
Yeah.
dots to.
Yeah.
That's very helpful. I end up getting phone calls, and I love Mark. But we'll end up like touching base with things, and all of a sudden, like it'll be like somebody who doesn't fit Banyan, but all of a sudden I find myself sponsoring the guy.
Yeah. Or connecting him with somebody who
Like, all right, bro, I'll meet you for coffee
Yeah.
at 9 o'clock in the morning tomorrow. We're busting out a big book, and I'm like, perfect, dude.
I gotta say one thing that you said I think about because in addition to just coordinating this, I'm also a CRSS, so we do peer support work with all types of clients, and a few of them come through DuPage probation or DuPage MyCap, and they do not necessarily want to be meeting with me, and I understand that. However, I do know that it's not always going to happen in the first meeting. It might be the fifth meeting with them, it might be the sixth or seventh. But I think that's really important. We're all mandated by somebody. Sometimes it's just the law, sometimes it's something else. But yeah, that's great, man. Is there any other services you want to plug through Banyan? And if so, how do people get a hold of you?
Yeah, you can can you
Yeah, I can put your
but
shirt
yeah,
to that.
we'll type my information in. But you can always feel free to reach out to me by phone. Literally, my wife loves this part, but it's 24/7. 24/7 really. I mean, and truthfully, like if I'm not available, I'll answer and let you know I'm not available.
Yeah.
But I will definitely get back to you. As we grow here in Illinois, like if anybody's looking for work or just to come alongside us, I know Kayla was talking about we'd love to have you out as a speaker. That's
Yeah,
my
that's
bread and
so
butter.
cool. Yeah.
Banyan's been around in Illinois for a while, and the reasoning behind it is because we do pretty well in connecting the dots.
Yeah.
We know we're not the end all be all.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody have any questions or comments for Mike? Oh, there's a question in the chat. All right, let's take a look. I'll scroll down. If you have a question on digital, you can raise your digital hand. But yes, can they stay on MOUD while in PHP and recovery housing?
I feel awful for this. What's MOUD?
Medication for opiate use disorder. So like
Oh,
toxin, Sublocade,
okay,
anything like
MST.
that.
Yes, absolutely,
Gotcha.
absolutely. So literally, like when I look like this, right to the we have our nurse practitioner here, who will help them out with med management, and then also at our housing, they'll be able to have their meds on them, but there will also be oversight over those meds as well. Not necessarily daily oversight, but just to be clear, like we'll check med counts, things like that, whatever's necessary.
Diversion,
Yeah.
yeah.
So yes, they can continue on through. And then even IOP with say they go to a sober living, but they continue on our IOP, they still have access to our NP and our medical director as well.
Do you guys still bring on recovery techs?
We do. We're looking for some.
So here's the thing. I always try to push people that direction on tech. If you've got somebody who's like on fire, wanting to work in the field and maybe just doesn't know what they want to do just yet, check out recovery teching because it's a good foot in the door. You can kind of get a little taste of what it's like to be around clients all the time and start small. But yeah, so I can direct people to you for that. if
Thank
they're
you so
interested.
much. Yeah, we're definitely looking for a few more. And that is something that if you have lived experience and you have a passion to serve, it's nothing clinical. So you can share your story. You can be a part of somebody's walk and somebody's journey. And And that's again where some of the best conversations take place is you catch somebody that had a rough day at clinical, and then all of a sudden they got you to come home and talk to.
Beautiful, beautiful. Any questions or comments online or in person? Going once, going twice. Everybody give Mike a round of applause. Thank you, buddy. Obviously for engaging with us in this capacity, but also just being a good dude. Everyone wish Mike a very, very special Father's Day. He has enough little ones to staff a basketball team. So with the remaining time we've got about 5 minutes. That's usually when I open up the floor. So if you have got a program or an organization that you're with and you'd like to maybe take a couple minutes to promote things you've got coming up, you can do that. And that also goes for here in person. Or if you've got like a memorable anniversary or sober anniversary you want to acknowledge, you can do that too. Anybody here in person? Scott Kaufman, I'm going to pass you the mic.
Thank you very much, MC Jarrett. I just want to say, first of all, this has been an awesome meeting, in the running for one of the best ROSC meetings I've been to. I really appreciate
Look at you.
Like, no, like it was great to hear everybody, but like hearing stories and hearing about different paths in recovery, that's what it's all about. I love it. So just really want to give kudos to that. I do want to mention, a lot of you are probably know her, Mila Sagalis, who has worked at the health department for a very long time, led the creation of the Narcan program, has been my boss for almost 7 years. She is moseying on to Arlington Heights, where she lives, where she's going to be the director of their health and human services. Super happy for her and everyone that lives in Arlington Heights, and super bummed for all of us that don't. So, I mean, she does unbelievable work. We are absolutely going to miss her, but I do want to like reiterate that the Narcan program is not going anywhere.
Oh yeah,
we
you
just
can't get rid of us.
Yeah, we just secured funding for another year. We don't anticipate that changing, even with the wildness going on in funding. Narcan program is here. None of that is changing. If you were previously reaching out to her personally, I am happy to take that on. I'll have Jarrett put my name in the chat, but Scott Kaufman, scott.kaufman at DuPageHealth.org or DNP at DuPageHealth.org. All of that, we will take care of you. I promise. I won't say without missing a beat. There will be beats missed over the next
that always happens,
couple of weeks, but yeah, I mean,
you're gonna do a great job if you slip into that, and we'll continue to engage. And thank you for obviously always coming out and helping out with this stuff. And so yeah, glad to have you. Mark, do you got anything you'd like to promote? Come on down, buddy. Is it not? Yeah. Who are you?
Hey, I'm Mark Matthews. I'm a CPRS CRSS for Greater Family Health. And shout out to Banyan. Thanks for hosting us, guys. Yeah, so you talked about not being a glum lot. And I truly believe that from guys like Jared and Mike, I've been taught that these events aren't going to plan themselves. So we do have this kind of a big heads up, but I want to give plenty of time and warning. We're having our first annual recovery drive-in. I've talked with McHenry Drive-In, and so the owners have agreed to allow us to have a parking lot meeting in the parking lot of the drive-in prior to, this will be August 19th. That's a Saturday at McHenry Drive-In. So drum roll for the movies. Uncle Buck, The Great Outdoors,
Is it a John Candy?
and Weird Science.
Oh, those are great.
So again, it's $15 for adults, 10 for children. We're to the owner, but again, bring your lawn chairs, family friendly. I think even pets are allowed. And we're gonna have a great little meeting. The meeting will be an hour prior to sunset. So all movies start at sunset. So I can't imagine a better summer night to be out there with the fam, sitting around lawn chairs, having for the movie night. So
a week right before everyone's overdose awareness week madness.
Right as we go into that. So if you need the flyer, I'll put the my email address in the chat. It's not affiliated with Greater Family Health. This is just the recovery community, us having fun. So
thank you, Mark. And we're gonna promote the heck out of that. Anybody else have anything they'd like to promote in the last minute? If you're online, you can do it, or if you're in person. Going once, going twice. All right, hey, check it out. Next month, July 9th, the DuPage ROSC Council will be at Central DuPage Hospital. Thank you to CDH and their BHS for hosting us over there. I'll send out all of the full information with the flyer and all that for next month. But yeah, if you're interested in hosting our in-person component of the ROSC meeting, feel free to reach out to me. Like I said, I think we're booked up through most of the end of the year. But we're always looking for new partners to come out and join with. Be on the lookout for the recordings for this. It'll go up on our YouTube page tomorrow. Everybody give another round of applause for Mike. He did so great. And Kayla as well. And thank you to everybody who came here in person. I'll leave the virtual up for just a couple minutes if anybody has any questions. Otherwise, we'll see you next Wednesday for Blake's 7.0 presentation. So we'll see you at the next one, everybody.
Thanks, Jared. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. Thank you for coming, everybody.